Welcome to On the Square. I'm your host. My name is Mykal Kafi, and the topic is some of the violence pertaining to weapons like guns that's happening for this year, 2025. So we're talking about a little bit of mass shooting, and we're also talking about police involvement with residents and citizens of the United States. But we're kind of floating around. So it's not necessarily everything going to be mass shooting, and it's not going to be police brutality as every case, but we want to hit both situations and some other. Well, one of the things I do want to hit is the assault guns situations in the United States, and it's kind of tough because defining that particular rifle as an assault weapon versus just a long rifle versus other kinds of rifles under those situations. I know people want to say that assault rifle is when as long as you're pulling the trigger and bullets are coming out, that's an assault rifle. So I don't want to get technical, but I want to get to a rifle that's able to shoot a lot of rounds at a high volume. So you put in a magazine, and it could be a bunch of rounds that you can shoot by just holding the trigger, and you're just shooting rounds. So I really don't want to get into, I'm just looking at a rifle that can shoot high volume of ammunition, not the technical term, because you got some people that are saying, well, that's not an assault rifle, or that's not a machine gun, or that's a semi-automatic, all that stuff. I'm just looking at a particular rifle that can put out a lot of rounds in a short period of time. And we'll just call that assault rifle, versus a regular rifle that you go to shoot a deer or a shotgun. I'm not trying to list the different weapons. I'm just talking about any long gun that can put out high volumes of bullets. That's what I'm calling an assault. And you take there's a mechanism, I want to call it a safety, but there's a mechanism that allow that long gun to release bullets at high volume versus a semi-automatic versus assault rifle, two different things. So, and also we're talking about maybe individual cases or a police case versus a resident or a citizen. So we'll just try to touch on some of the ones that has been recent since the last few months, and not to cover the whole year of 2025 as the topic, but I think, and I may be wrong, I think it's 254 shootings so far from January to now. And we can always backtrack and update that number to see if it's correct. Okay, getting back to just reminding the listening and viewing audience that the subtitle is Health, Wealth, and Self. And of course, I got that from KRS-One, which I wanted, because I didn't come up with that phrase, but I heard it from KRS-One. the thing that I try for everybody to focus on working on yourself. So if you got some anger issues, or you put things on the back burner and all that kind of stuff, that you want to move forward, even though it's the 6th month of the year, but you want to move forward. And then once you feel comfortable with yourself, then you go to help your family. After your family, you go into your neighborhood, help your neighborhood. So work on yourself, then your family, then the neighborhood. Also, that I want to get into, well, I'm not going to get into, but I want to mention certain things like name calling. I enjoy name calling, but I try not to do. I haven't done it in a long time. It just seemed like every time you turn on a podcast or the news, somebody's calling somebody else a name. So just like for myself, and I think a lot of people just need to just drop the name calling stuff, because it's I just think it's not productive. Also, using the N-word, I try not to use it. I think you turn on any media or podcasts or a lot of media outlets, you're going to hear the N-word. I don't get it. So I try not to use the N-word. Try not to use profanity. There's a couple of people that use profanity excessively, but they're very good at it. So you don't get caught up in all the cussing and things of that. But my thing is, if you can't say it in front of your grandmother, you can't say it in front of a child, then why say it? Some people say for impact, and sometimes that work for impacting somebody that's listening to you talk. And the last thing, I recommend that somebody join an organization. I don't really have any particular organization I can just say off the top of my head, say, I think that you should join this group. But if you do your research, and you might find a group that is doing good work and you like what they're doing, and you should join up and just help that group instead of being solo all the time. Now, I'm getting to the part of the books. I like to just throw out certain books, so it can help make you more a well-read person. And one of them is Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. And obviously, I think that book was published in the 90s, if I'm correct. So it's not brand new, and I don't know if he updated it, but that book tells you a lot of the history of or historical history in the United States. It's not worldwide. It's more mainly focused on United States. Also, you have The Medical Apartheid, and this is by Harriet Washington. And I think she went to school to get a medical degree, but she ended up going into being a journalist, medical journalist. But I might not have that correct, so you can double check that. But the third book is When Work Disappeared. It has a subtitle where The World of the New Urban Poor by William Julius Wilson. This book came out in 1996. So it's an old book. And I'm really not aware if he revised it or updated it, but I'm pretty sure everything that we see now, he said in 1996, and pretty much happened because a lot of manufacturing, other things have left this country. So the book is pretty accurate, and it's also telling you, so when you have a certain census tract and those employers and manufacturers and things of that nature, when they move out or ship those jobs overseas, and you can see the devastation of the results of that decision. The next book is called Black Reconstruction in America. And this is by W.E.B. Du Bois. Now, if you're interested to know a little bit of Black history, but you really don't want to do a lot of reading, you really don't want to do a lot of study, but this book covers a lot of information. You can catch up with this one book. You might not have to read another book. And it does good because you get a lot of information that you might not know, but you don't got to read 20 or 30 books to get that information. This book can give you a lot of information real quick. And the last book is How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. So that was how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was about 5 or 6 books. I do want to make a statement about the 1%. I'm just going to call them the elite. And this is my interpretation of what they're doing in the United States. So we're talking about like Bill Gates and those individuals, the 1%, they're very wealthy. They're against living wage. What they want to do is to remove the human of doing the work in this country. So it's what they want to deal with AI, they want to deal with robots, and they want to deal with layoff workers. So this system is profit over people and nature. So if you read some of Bill Gates' current writings, he's always talking about AI and what it can do for this country, and that's replacing workers. So if you look down, I don't want to say the future, but if you look ahead, you will see that they want to get rid of a lot of paying people to work. So you have the guy that ran for mayor, the last mayor, not this current one, but the last mayor race, Andrew Wang, I think that's his name. And he was talking about an experiment they did in Canada where they actually paid a percentage of the population. And so they didn't work, but they got a paycheck. That what people don't understand is when you have, it's like a paid leave. So when you're getting this situation, when you're getting paid, this is the time you go back to school, or this is the time when you start up your own business. It's things that you just don't, it's not paying somebody to sit down and just relax. It's taking you out of the workforce because they already planned to take you out of the workforce anyway. So this is a chance where you're getting an income, and then you're taking that income so you don't come in a situation where you're just trying to survive. You're treading water. You're trying to survive. So this is the time where you can reinvent yourself. You can go back to school, or start your own business that is not going to be outdated. It's not going to be obsoleted. So meaning that you don't want to start a business and there's no market for it because you have other situations going to take care of that demographic that you're trying to move into. You want to start a business that the time that you start is still going to generate some revenue for you. You're not competing with AI. You're not competing with the Chinese. You're not competing with overseas cheap labor and things like that. You want to start something that you know that is going to provide a service that is needed, but it can provide you with an income. Now, also I want to jump to voting, and just to let a little bit pertaining to me. I vote for policies, not party or personalities. So we got to, whoever have the idea that is going to benefit the most people in your state or your town or in the United States or whatever demographic you want to talk about. If you're a Republican, and you have a nice policy that's going to benefit everybody, or if you're a Democrat and you have or if you're an independent and you have a nice policy, or whatever you want to label yourself. So that's what I'm dealing with. I think leadership is important because if you have a powerful, and what I mean by powerful, I mean somebody that can motivate you to get up and join what they're trying to do to move people forward. When I say powerful, I don't mean strong leader. I'm talking about somebody that can motivate you to go in the direction that he or she wants you to go to. And they're not easily corrupt. They're not for the buck. I'm not saying to work for cheap, but I'm saying don't be influenced by a donor that say, hey, I pay you this amount of money, you do what I say, and come with strings attached. That's not what I'm looking for in leadership. I'm looking for somebody that's innovative and they're flexible and they want what's best for the largest amount of people at one time. Here are some people that I listen to if I'm going to listen to somebody. If I'm not doing my own research or doing my own observations. One is Thomas Hartman, Professor Richard Wolff, Sister Soldier, the late Amos Wilson, the late Glenn Ford, a very young person. These are two young people, Gareth Hayes, Calvin Michael. Calvin does a lot of stuff at one time. So I can't really pen him as influence. He's an influencer. He does influence people, but not only that, but he does a lot of different things. He juggles a lot of different things. Also, Chris Hedges, and he's a journalist. Ralph Nader, which been around for a very long time. I want to say he's 80, somewhere in 80s, or maybe even 90 years old. But he's an activist. And also Amy Goodman. And I think they only have two women, and this is not intentionally. I only picked two women on that list. But I'm pretty sure there's a whole bunch of that is very progressive, but I only picked those two. There's one thing I did want to talk about with this situation in Jacksonville in Florida. And let me see. I have the guy that's in charge of the sheriff department is Waters, Sheriff Waters. I'm trying to think of did I wrote it somewhere. The brother that was in the car when they told him to get out the car, and then everything went left. And let me see where I wrote that down. But this happened in Jacksonville, and they pulled him over because he didn't have a headlight. He didn't have his headlight on the car, and because of the weather, if you go to the Florida, the state of Florida state laws, it says during rain, smoke, or fog, any of these kind of situations, your car lights needs to be on. It never said if it rained to keep, there's no distinguish that once after it rained to keep your lights on. It says during the rain, during smoke, during fog, your lights need to be on. That's in the state of Florida. Now, if you notice, and I've been trying to count how many police cars came to the call. I'm really not sure. I want to say 5. I'm not really sure because there was a one car in front of his car and was a police officer car in the back. So they had a car in the back and a car in the front, and they had cars. So it looked like I counted 3. I think I counted 2 in the back. So it's 5. It looks like 5 police cars. But if you notice, when these cars came, I only seen one officer that had his lights on. So you're telling this taxpayer or this resident that while he's driving, he need his light on, but you're representing the law of Florida, and the police cars that came to this particular pull over was only one officer had their lights on. My thing is if you're representing the law, follow the law. So I know it gets tricky because a police officer can say the reason he didn't have a seatbelt on is because he knows that once he stops his car, he's going to run after somebody. So why have the seatbelt on? But my thing is, if I'm going to enforce the law, I'm going to follow the law that I'm telling you to apply those situations to your own personal situation. So if I'm not going to run a red light because you're telling me to stop at a red light, but you won't stop at a red light unless it's a emergency. So if you're breaking the laws, it's kind of hard for other people to follow the law. If you're breaking the same law that you're trying to enforce, that's what I'm trying to get to. That when I looked at the video, I only seen one police car with their lights on, and the other police cars didn't have their lights on. I'm talking about the headlights. Didn't have the headlights. About that Jacksonville situation, I kind of listened to some commentary from Stephen A. Not a big fan of Stephen A. I also listened a little bit of Officer Tatum. Not a big fan of Officer Tatum, but I am. They had Officer Izzo. He has a podcast. And I gotta look for his podcast because he he reviewed the tape of the Jacksonville situation. Okay, the guy's name is William McNeil Jr. I think he was 22, somewhere around 22 years old. The name of Officer Izzo's podcast is Cop Talk Live. Cop like C-O-P, Talk Live. He posted, I think he posted that podcast 6 days ago. Today is the 31st, July 31st. And he has a number that you can call pertaining to stuff that he covers. And I don't know what state this area code is, 708-982-0974. Cop Talk Live. My whole thing is, and I also listen to Amazing Lucas. I guess that's the name of his podcast. A fairly young brother, and a lot of them. Well, he felt that William made some bad decisions when he was dealing with the police. My thing is, if you are in a situation that William was in, so your license is suspended. So if my license is suspended and I'm driving, I'm trying to follow the rules. Because what you don't want is to bring attention to yourself to have them pull you over. Because they're going to run your plates. And your plate is going to show up on the computer that your license is suspended. Now, he has said on the video that his driver window side, the window couldn't be rolled down or couldn't go down. So he opened the door to talk to the officers. But I think when the officers approached him, he shut the door. And I think by shutting the door, you're going to make them react to the door being shut. Meaning, in their mind, they don't know why you shut the door. So that's a dangerous move. You're by yourself. And where I was looking, I didn't see a lot of people around. It doesn't mean there wasn't a lot of people around, but I just didn't see a lot of people. So I wouldn't do a drastic move and there's no eyewitness. So I don't think that was a smart move on his part. Now, they said that they found a bag of weed. I would like to know what's the law in Florida for having a bag of weed, because I don't know if that was a medical marijuana. I don't know if he was using the marijuana for health issues. So I need to know what's the law in Florida for you to have weed on you if it's for medical purposes. So I don't know if what this guy is thinking. It looks like he had tinted windows. So you're going to draw the attention of law enforcement when your windows are tinted. And I guess it's at a certain darkness that they're going to react to. It looked like his window was tinted, not 100% sure. But they need to mention that, because if his window was tinted, how do you know his seatbelt wasn't on? Because they said that his charge was resisting. His charge was not driving with a headlight during time of when it was raining, and he didn't have a seatbelt. And I'm like, okay, if his window was tinted, how do you know if he didn't have a seatbelt? Another thing, you got weed on you. So when they searched you, they found weed. And then when they searched the car, they found the knife. Even though they want to say all kind of things, one of the chief for the sheriff department. He said it was a Rambo knife. If you go back to any of the Rambo movies, I think it was 3 of them. I think they made 3 movies. That's a big knife that he had. And I seen the knife on the floor. They shown it. And that's not the size of a Rambo knife. And so they exaggerate the length, and they planted a image in your mind that here's a guy that has a big old knife. And the knife wasn't that big. Obviously, that knife is good enough to defend yourself in a serious situation, but it wasn't as big as they tried to make it. And so if you got a knife on the floor and you got weed and your license is suspended and you didn't have your seatbelt on, dude, why are you making these moves? And you got all these things they can pin on you. So, but I'm not trying to blame William, because nobody deserved to get hit in the face. And when you looked at the video, he looked like he got sucker punched. But the head officer said that he didn't get sucker punched. Sheriff Walter, or whatever his title is, I don't know if it's a chief or whatever. I listened to him speak, and I was very disappointed in terms of, it looked like he didn't see anything wrong. My whole thing is, when you're pulling somebody over, the situation is going to be tense, because the person that might be trying to get to an appointment, like a job appointment, or catch a store before it closes. You know, most people is not just driving around to look at the scenery. They're driving around to do something. So it automatically becomes stressful. So if I'm pulling you over, and when he got out of the car, when he opened the door, I was like, do me a favor, turn on your lights for the rest of the day and have a good day. You can't tell me that there's nothing serious going on in Jacksonville. It's a city. Something's going on. Let this guy go. No, unless you're really pulling him over because you already knew that his license was suspended and stuff. Unless you have a serious reason past his headlights, and he even admitted, look at these cars passing me, they don't have the headlights. So something identify him to the officers for them to make that stop. Another thing is, when you're looking at pretext stops, and I also noticed his car had it's been hit. It's been some accidents along the side of his car. So either somebody ran into him or he ran into somebody. And there's a reason to target somebody that car is beat up, because now you want to give them a ticket, and you know if they can't fix their car, those little hits, that ticket is now going to double or triple or whatever. That means that he's going to have a warrant, and now he's probably, if he can't pay the ticket and he can't pay to fix the nicks and bruises on his car, he don't have the resources to improve his situation. So now he's going to end up be arrested and sitting in jail because he can't bond out unless he have his parents or somebody that can help him bond out. He's in trouble, and if he don't hurry up and bond out, he's going to lose his job. because he's missing at the job. He's probably going to lose where he's living if he got an apartment. If he can't talk to the landlord to tell the landlord that he's in jail and he's trying to get out of jail and things of that nature. So the whole situation is going to go sideways. And they do these stops. That's what's make Fergus, Missouri. That whole situation is police officers making stops to get revenue for the town, that section of the town, to get revenue. So they know everybody's living the people they're pulling over are living paycheck to paycheck. So therefore, the money going to be tight, especially if they don't pay right away and it doubles or whatever, the interest increase that payment. Now this person is going to lose their apartment. They're going to lose their job. And the situation get worse. And when you study these, what they call pre-text stops, it's you look at a situation, two dark tents, or a beat up car, or the muffler is making too much noise. These are all stuff for the police to pull you over and now try to look through your vehicle for more stuff they can put on you. So that's a big problem. And just even look at my situation where I wasn't driving. But I want to give you the example of how this policing start. It's not really to serve and protect. It's about getting resources for whatever census tract that you're in. So the stop is to get revenue. It's not for your protection or they care about you. I left work and I think I must have I did over 8 hours that day, because what I did was I did the 9 to 5 and I also did after 5. And what happened is that at the job I had, the parents had training, but a lot of these parents had children, but they didn't have no babysitters. So what happened is those parents brought their children to the campus. So we as staff, that's not our day job, but we selected to help the company to provide service for those young people to be supervised while their parents is being trained. So make a long story short, I stayed past that 8-hour shift. And so I went over 10 hours. So when that shift that I did was completed, so I went back home. And so this don't apply to a car, but it applied to policing. So I took a bus to get home. And then from the main street, which would be Farmington Avenue, and then from Farmington Avenue, I was walking to my street, which is a ways down. And so I'm walking to go home. And just like the movie Kid and Play, where they were walking and the police officer, drove their car to, I think it was Kid, and they put the big light on the side of the automobile, and they put the light in your face. So I'm walking and I got this bright light in my face. And then when I looked again, I seen it was unmarked. It's really a detective car, an unmarked police car. So I'm walking and they're just driving beside me while I'm walking and then shining a light in me. And I'm like, what's going on? And they told me CVS got robbed. And I'm like, okay, what that got to do with me? And they said, you fit the description. I said, what description? And they told me the description. I'm like, that's half of the black men that live in this city. You want to say as a tall, dark-skinned black dude. Then he also said he had a black jacket on. And I was like, first of all, I don't have a jacket on. I have a vest. This is a vest. How can you confuse a jacket with a vest? A vest, it don't have any sleeves. I didn't have any sleeves. But anyway, and so they asked me for my driver's license. I'm like, I'm not showing you my driver's license. I'm walking. CVS is over there and I'm walking down. If I robbed CVS, why would I be walking back towards CVS? I would be going away from CVS. But anyway, I told them I have my supervisor number on me. I can give the number right to you. Can call her and say, and I can give you what I'm wearing, the description of what I'm wearing, and my name. And then you can call her and say, was this individual? And I could tell you the name of the company, and she won't know how to answer it unless she's telling the truth. He said, yes, he was here from this time, and he just left on his way to home. That will verify where I was and what I'm planning to do by going home. 2, I had a bag with me. I said, if you want to check my bag to see if I have any stolen goods, you can check the bag. And I only live right over there. So you can see me go into where I live. If I stole something from CVS, I want to be walking the street. I want to be in my house. So it wasn't me. They still asking me for my driver's license. My driver's license is not going to help you. I don't have a warrant. And I'm too tired to be running around here, robbing and stealing. I just want to mind my business and go in the house. And while they're asking me all these dumb questions and wasting time while I'm walking, I stopped walking. Now I'm standing there talking to them. And guess what? The person they're looking for down the street, he comes running by. I said, look, there's the guy you're looking for, because there's a whole bunch of cops is chasing him. And when they looked, they seen a whole bunch of police officers behind them chasing them. And then they drove down, put the lights on, and they drove down to help the rest of the police. And I just kept walking to my house. And then when I finally got close to my house, that same officer that was asking me these questions, he told the head officer, I don't know, it was a lieutenant, a captain, a sergeant, supervisor, I don't know who's in charge of the whole group. He said, there's that guy that didn't want to help us. Help you with what? I told you I came from work. If you want to check my bag, you want to call my supervisor. I gave you information to help you, but you wasn't happy with that information. And you caught the person that allegedly did this stealing, and you still want to bother me. So I have a problem. I have a problem with how policing towards people that have is melanated, dominated people. Everybody has melanin, but it's a low level. And some people got a lot of melanin, and it makes their skin complex much different from the ones that have less melanin. So that's why I said a melanin dominated person. You're going to tell me you're looking for a tall black person. I live in Hartford. So at that time I lived in Hartford. You just described the population. So, that's a bad description to be looking for somebody. And I think the relationship with the policing and the residents has to improve. And that's part of the problem. If they had some relations with the citizens that they're policing, so I'm talking about Jacksonville, and I'm still talking about Hartford or New York or Boston, it don't matter what city, the relation has to improve. It's not that people that live in urban areas don't like police, they don't like how they're being treated. So if I did over a 10-hour shift and only to come home to be accused of a robbery, you can ask a lot of questions without saying I fit a description. One of the questions you could ask, did you see anything? We just stop it because we're looking for a certain person. Did you see somebody running? See, that's a way of letting me know, okay, you're searching somebody. You don't know who you're searching, but you're looking for help. So I should be helping you find the person you're looking for instead of you accusing me of a robbery. You just need to work how to communicate better with the individuals that you're policing. And where I lived, we call it the Gonza Strip because it's so close to West Hartford and Hartford. So it's right there at the city line. It's right there. So when you're living that close to town, next to another town, you're going to have multiple policing in that area. So it's almost like the Palestinians and Israel, they're so close to each other, it's going to be overlapped. And we in the neighborhood used to call it the Gonza Strip before what's happening now because of the increased policing, because you're so close to two towns. They're right beside each other. And it just keeps the incidents keep going on because a lot of times people don't necessarily report all their incidents. Like the sheriff accused an Officer Tatum on the internet, on his website, want to say that the incident happened earlier in the year. So why did he wait? He waited because he wanted to collect money. So he don't think that he don't think how he got treated was unfair. He just trying to sue the police department. That's your mindset that he's thinking, because it's plenty of times, things happen. You have to make a decision if you want to report it or you're just going to let it go. A lot of people let things go because they're trying to move on. They're just trying to move on. Another thing, in the same area, so I think 3 or 4 streets over, so this is going that way. So it's no longer, this is Hartford, this is the next town, so about 3 or 4 streets over to the next town, another incident. A guy was shoveling his driveway. So he lives at this house. He decided to come out, shovel his driveway, and prepare to turn on his car and drive out of his residence. The police ran up on him and arrested him or detained him. What was going on? There was somebody that was knocking on the door and trying to get people to pay him to shovel their driveway and sidewalk and all that stuff. And I don't understand it, because if you didn't do the work, how do you get paid? They were saying that he was robbing people. So they must have paid him a portion of the money up front, and then he would take off. This guy is minding his business. He just come out to shovel his driveway so he can leave. The police rode up on him and detained him and accused him of robbing people. He lives there and he's trying to shovel his own driveway. He's minding his business. You can't be that lazy and lack that skill to investigate an area where somebody is committing a crime and you just immediately and just grab whoever you see and accuse them of the same crime that's happening that you had nothing to do with. And I lived in that area. It's the same thing is going on. So when I look at what happened in Jacksonville, I'm kind of looking at it like I'm gonna feel a certain type of way for William. I'm gonna feel a certain type of way. He did make some poor choices, mistakes, errors, whatever you want to call it. But I'm also looking at how things are being handled on trying to find a solution to the situation. I don't think punching somebody through the window, and that didn't even show up on the cameras the police had. That was his phone that he situated when he was sitting in the car. He turned on his phone to record it. So his phone caught the punch, but none of the police cameras caught that punch. And then you have people like Stephen A. saying, well, that police officer need to get suspended or fired or whatever. But he keep harping on how William handled the situation and saying he could have got killed. Anytime a police officer pull you over, you can get killed. You know. Instead of giving your little poor example of what you should do, you should bring an officer on your show and go through the scenario and say what is the best way to handle a situation like that. Stephen Smith got a big old $1 million contract. He has the money to bring somebody on his show and go through a scenario that if you get pulled over, here's a officer right here, and this is the way you handle it. Don't keep harping on the mistakes that William made. William, if he's in his 20s, I want to say 22, but he's in his 20s. He haven't lived life yet. So help him out instead of criticizing, don't do this and don't do that. When you're scared and your ability to think logically decrease. When you're angry and scared and all that fight and flight stuff goes in, the hormones, all that stuff, you're going to make some bad decisions. So instead of ripping in this young man's situation and say, don't do this and don't do that, set up a workshop. You have enough money that you can, I don't know where he is. He might be in New York. He might be in Bristol. He might be in Los Angeles, wherever, or Miami, wherever you're doing your show. Set up a program and have a bunch of young people, pick a high school or whatever, or a church that got young people, have them come in, feed them, and have a scenario go through and have the police officer or somebody in law enforcement show them how to handle the situation properly instead of criticizing, yelling and screaming. I'm listening to him. He's yelling and screaming and all that kind of stuff and using big words and all that stuff. That's not gonna pull me to want to listen to you. My whole thing is I'm a through the time I lived, I had many situations with the police, and I know some officers let you get away with murder and some don't. Some people want to put you and bring you to jail for jaywalking and stuff like that. I know that I've been caught speeding. I'm talking about speeding way over the speed limit. And I had officers telling me, slow it down, stop speeding, and just let me go. I remember that. So I'm not going to sit here and say police don't give people a chance. And I understand what policing, what a professional law enforcement say. Well, if you give him a break, he going to keep speeding. Well, I haven't speeded in years. So when I got caught speeding twice. It wasn't back to back, but I got caught speeding. When I got the brakes, I stopped speeding. It don't make me think that because this cop gave me a break, I'm gonna keep speeding. That's some faulty logic. I got caught, that means I could get caught again. So what I did was I slowed it down. But I used to be driving excessively fast, and a lot of times, because I'm rushing. Like if I gotta, I have an appointment, I gotta be at a certain time, I'm gonna speed. That's how I'm built. I'm gonna speed. But if I keep getting caught, I'm not gonna keep speeding. I'm speeding because there's consequences. It's fines, it's putting points on your license and all that stuff. But I appreciate everybody tuning into the show and listening to my take on William McNeil and Jacksonville. And I just think that they got caught for hitting this guy for not having headlights. And yes, I think he made some poor decisions, but we all make poor decisions in emotional. When you're afraid, you can make a lot of bad decisions. So if you got the resources and the platform, then put a workshop to help educate our young people on what to do when they get stopped by the police. And I want to say that everybody have a blessed day, and hope this is a teachable moment where you can learn something from this situation and not find a way that makes certain people the bad guys or making the situation worse. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk again Thursdays in the afternoon.
Nick Augustino right here at the East Side Restaurant. We always have the complete full dinner menu. Knockwurst, bratwurst, sauerbraten, potato pancakes, red cabbage, rice pudding, cream pies, all the desserts that Germany had to offer. I always do something different. Yes, I do. I brought seafood to the beer garden at the East Side Restaurant. East Side Restaurant, your German destination restaurant in Connecticut. Tiki-taka, hoy, hoy, hoy!